correct the proposals when they come. Unfortunately, when I saw the budget being presented, I didn't see any along those lines. He had promised us that he was going to look at it and maybe respond positively. We'll still stay in hope. We are requesting this committee to take that in consideration in your future engagements with the MEC for Finance, because it is a problem. Otherwise, in all the other areas, we are happy to report that, although it will come at the appropriate time, our spending for the ending financial year that ended last week, we were 100%. We are looking forward to a clean audit. I'm hoping my team is going to deliver that as we promised this committee last year. We do still have our spending pressures in the areas of events and functions, but we do try our best. But otherwise, in respect of our targets, in respect of our infrastructure programs, we are on track. In respect of our programs in talent identification on the side of sport, we are on track. You'll be happy, Chair, to note last week we had a meeting of MINMEC where amongst most of the areas where National was reporting proposed draft budget for 2025-26. The HOD, Dr. Asfunda, is here with the CFO and also the Chief Director, Mr. Msana, Infrastructure. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
No, thank you so much, and would allow you to take leave as and when you feel comfortable, Honorable MEC. HOD, thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and greetings to yourself and the honorable members of the committee. We also greet the MEC and the members from the department and Amafa. Honorable MEC, I think the budget we are presenting to the committee this time around is that of a relatively new department that has decided deliberately to work on impact-driven programs. So when we present this budget, it is against that, to say what we are in the next 5 years, on is sustainability of the sector. MEC has indicated how limited our budget is, and therefore we are actually persuading all of our federations and whomever we fund in terms of entities to ensure a cost effectiveness of the budget that we transfer to them, that they should account for every rand, and that they should have a proper alignment to the strategy of the department so that we can collectively deliver on the impact.
Amafa, I greet you all this afternoon. I'm going to be presenting the 2025-2026 MTEF budget. The first slide is just a table of contents in terms of the areas that will be covered by the budget. It will be the departmental overlook, a breakdown, the allocation, the grants, revenue, the summary per program. We're also going to have a slide that talks to the conditional grants, the transfers, as well as capital infrastructure. There is an alignment between the budget, the strategy of the department, the National Development Plan, the Medium-Term Development Plan, as well as the Provincial Growth and Development. The first outcome for the department is compliant and transparent governance, which is aligned to Chapter 13 and 14 of the NDP, as well as strategic priority number 3 of the MTDP. And the outcome of that is a capable and a professional public service. Moving on to the second outcome for the department, which is increased economic contribution of the sport, arts and culture sector to address poverty, unemployment and inequality. It's aligned to Chapter 3 of the NDP, as well as strategic priority number 1 and number 2 of the MTDP, which is inclusive growth and job creation, reduce poverty and tackle high cost of living. And the outcome is the increased employment opportunities, reduced poverty, and the improved livelihoods of the people. Outcome number 3, which is increased participation of the communities to develop a creative, active, healthy, and a winning province. It's linked to Chapter 15 of the NDP as well as strategic priority number 2, with the outcome of social cohesion and nation building. The fourth outcome for the department is a diverse, socially cohesive, and moralistic society with a common identity and national pride, which is still also linked to Chapter 15, strategic priority number 2, and the outcome of social cohesion. So there is an alignment between these plans and the budget. The summary allocation for the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture for 2025-26 MTEF is as follows. With your permission, Chair, may I kindly just focus on year 1, which is 2025-26. Equitable share allocation is 1,280,573,000 for 25-26. And the conditional grants are 317,568,000, which makes the total allocation for the department to be 1,598,141,000 for 2025-26. Then 2026-27, we see a slight increase to 1.6 billion and 1.7 billion in 2027-28. Included in the budget is the budget for some revenue streams, which will be derived from the sale of goods and services, which is the parking fees by the staff, as well as the facilities that are hired out by the department, like and some campsites. There's a budget allocation of 510,000 rand. Fines and penalties, this one is derived from charges or fees that are charged to the patrons for the lost and late return of library materials, such as books. We've allocated 28,000 revenue there. Interest dividends on rent and rent on land. This relates to the interest charged on debtors, we're estimating 2,000 rand. Sale of capital assets, 60,000 rand, which will be a sale of any redundant vehicles and office equipment. And lastly, 290,000, which is a recovery of prior debt should there be any suppliers or bursary holders or employees who owe the department money. Now, moving on to the summary per program. In the entire department, there are 56 vacant posts that have been incorporated in this budget. As HOD indicated earlier on, this is a new department. We are currently developing or in the final stages of developing an organogram. Then there will be placement, and subsequent to that, there will be a filling of the vacant post. We anticipated that will be done later in the financial year because of these other processes in terms of the structure as well as the placement of the existing employees. Goods and services for the entire department. What I can highlight there is that there were areas that were under budget or unfunded. Some were decentralized. For example, the utility accounts, fleet management, and IT expenses like payments to SETA, internet, etc. What we have done, we have embarked on a zero-based budgeting as a department where there is centralization, for example, of fleet of IT and property payments like the rentals for office buildings. Also, there has been a strategic move to allocate a budget in a pyramid form where there is a lean budget on top in the head office, and the bulk of the budget is allocated in districts. Transfers, I won't say much. We are transferring. There are slides that talk to transfers, but there are transfers that are made to various municipalities, departmental agencies, private enterprises, and non-profit institutions. Transfers are only made to those non-profit institutions as well as public enterprises that implement e-programs that are related and linked to the mandate of the department. On buildings and other fixed structures, I just want to highlight that there's a provision that has been made in the budget, and there will be slides that talk to a capital infrastructure, but on this one, just slide number 8. On this one, I just want to highlight that there is a budget provision of 21 million in year 1, 25-26, as well as year 2 in 26-27 for the acquisition or the procurement of the Heritage House, which is located at 222 Jabundlovu. The department is rationalizing the office space, and that will be the main head office for the department. We're also looking at improving the financial resources of the department, where there will be less monies paid for rental in various offices. For example, there are offices in Durban and various offices in Maritzburg. So the acquisition of this building will result in lesser rentals paid. On machinery and equipment, a budget provision has been made for the procurement of office equipment like computers and furniture, but there's a lesser allocation in year 1 and then year 2 and year 3 because of the budgetary and the financial constraints. With your permission, Chair, the slides that follow are just a breakdown per program. Maybe if we can just move swiftly, slide number 9, 10, 11, those are program 1. It's detailing a breakdown for program 1. And if we move to slide number 12, 13 and 14, that is a breakdown for program 2. Slide number 15, 16 and 17, that's program 3 breakdown. Slide number 4 is program 4, which is sport and recreation breakdown. Sorry, slide number 18, 19 and 20. If we move to slide number 21, which talks now to the breakdown of the conditional grants. Slide number 21, conditional grants. With the focus on year 1, there's IMAS Participation and Sport Development Grant, which is for sport and recreation. That is allocated 114,343,000 in year 1. Then we see a reduction in year 2 and an upward allocation in year 3. Community Library Services Grant has an allocation of 197,862,000, which is for the funding of the library service. EPWP Integrated Grant for Province and the EPWP Social Sector Incentive Grant They are allocated 2,261,000 as well as 3,102,000 rand respectively. There is no allocation. This is the grant we get from National, and there is no allocation for the two outer years of the MTEF. Now moving on to transfers, slide number 22. For all the transfers that are made by the department, either to municipalities, to NPI, to departmental agencies, there are MOAs that are entered into, there are business plans, and there is quarterly monitoring and even site visits where the department visits the sites where the programs are implemented or projects constructed. Provinces and municipalities, we have an allocation of 388.8 million, 13,454,000 of that is the provincialization of museums that is paid to municipalities for rendering the museum service. 1,719,000 is paid to Zululand District Municipality for the Indonza Arts Center. Then there's 290,411,000, of which an amount of 206.9 million is provincialization of libraries, which is paid from the equitable share, as well as 83.5 million, which is paid from the grant. These go to various municipalities that are providing the library service at municipal level. Then there's an allocation of 83,035,000 that has been set aside to municipalities for various construction of fitness centers in various districts and various municipalities. Departmental agencies, there's an allocation of 48,042.7 goes to Amafa, as well as 5.3 million to the Playhouse company. There are various public corporation and private enterprises, as well as non-profit institutions that also receive transfers from the department. Public corporations and public enterprises are allocated 14,250,000, and non-profit institutions are allocated 71.9 million in the first year of the MTEF. Now moving to infrastructure, slide number 25. Capital infrastructure has an allocation of 103,150,000. 5 million of that is unplanned maintenance for office buildings as well as art centers. Then there are upgrades and additions. That one is for an existing Osizweni Art Center, which is anticipated to be completed in the current financial year 2025-26. That will be completed. Hence, there is no allocation for the two outer years because it will be finished and finalized in the current year. Refurbishment and rehabilitation, that is the existing infrastructure or existing buildings that will be refurbished. It's the Heather Hall, it's the Cathedral Peak, it's the Skinner Camp. These are refurbished so that in future they can derive a revenue for the department and be in a good condition. Hence, we indicated that the department, one of the strategies is the monetization. So we also looking at monetizing our own properties by hiring them out and having some of our programs in our own facilities than renting out externally. New infrastructure, new in the sense that is the construction of new buildings that were not there before. Some might have been multi-year projects that were in prior years' budgets. This relates to a construction of various libraries, various sporting facilities, combination courts, play gyms, and outdoor gyms. Included under infrastructure is also the procurement or the purchase of the Heritage House building over 2 years, which is 25-26 and 26-27. The slides that follow are
Whether it's yourself or the CFO who will then do the presentation, and then immediately afterwards, then we'll then take discussion on both.
Sabingelela, Honorable Chair and members of the committee and other members, HOD, CFO and colleagues from the department, let me also start by apologizing for joining late. I was at another meeting planning ukuthi lo mhlangano ungo just after 1, but apologies for that. Mr. We call him TT, Tiloken Pillay from Finance is going to do the presentation, but as he's getting ready, let me raise a few points that underpins our budget and planning for the next financial year. Firstly, this is the first year of the implementation of the medium-term development plan, and the work that we are planning to do in our APP as well as in our budget is aligned to the priorities of the medium-term development plan 2024-2029. In line with that, we've also adopted a vision or approved a vision that says the management of heritage to promote social cohesion and stimulate inclusive economic growth. That talks to our focus on monetizing heritage and also ensuring that we promote economic growth using heritage, especially heritage sites that we own. We also want to ensure that we use heritage to create economic opportunities, especially through heritage site maintenance by communities that are around our heritage site throughout the province. We're also in the process of conserving heritage sites around eMakhosini. We're going to be doing that with funding that we received from the Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs throughout the MTEF. It's 11 million. So in the 2025-26 year, 4 million is going to be allocated, and we've already developed a business plan that talks to the conservation of the gravesite of the Zulu kings at eMakhosini, and that is also in line with our plan to declare eMakhosini to be a World Heritage Site, a UNESCO World Heritage Site by 2029. Our plan is that come end of July 2029, UNESCO will declare this. So it requires a lot of work to ensure that we are able to meet all the stringent deadlines. And lastly, we also committed to ensure that one of our priorities is ensuring that we spend 70% of our procurement budget on youth and women. But also linked to that, we've also created an expectation that we commit ourselves to pay our service providers within 10 days. And we are emphasizing that because we want to see how paying a service provider within 10 days makes a difference to the economy. So without further ado, let me welcome Mr. Pillay to do the rest of the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Hosa. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. Good morning, colleagues from the department and other officials that are present. With the 2025-26 annual budget, we'll just focus on that financial year for now. Right. We've restated our vision statement for the entire strategic cycle. This is in keeping or trying to bring about the alignment to the MTDP, the newly crafted MTDP, where we are going to manage heritage to promote social cohesion and stimulate inclusive economic growth. That's our vision statement for the next 5 years. And a lot of what the MTDP deals with is monetization of interventions so that we can economically impact and empower people on the ground. And that's what Amafa wants to do with the heritage interventions that we are implementing over the next 5 years. Sorry. Then I'm just going to touch, not on all the slides, but I'll just touch on a few of them as we go through the presentation for the sake of time and for discussion purposes. On slide number 7, which is the introduction, sorry, not slide number 7, slide number 3, which is the introduction. The overall budget for the 2025-26 financial year is 65.237 million, right, which is 1.237 million higher than the 2024-25 financial year, and this is only a 1.5% increase. Right? Now, this increase doesn't factor into it the cost of living increases or the CPI for going into the new financial year. So if you estimate CPI being at about 4.5% roughly, then we're actually looking at only a negative 2.6% growth, which is actually devaluation of the budget. In order to assess or in order to incorporate the impact of this negative growth, we've actually rationalized on certain projects and tried to stretch our money as far as we could. And some of the things that we won't be doing is appointing too many staff. We're trying not to rely too much on consultants. We're trying to do as much of the work in-house as possible so that we can balance our budget given the impact of inflation and the low rate at which our budget has grown. Just a few of the housekeeping matters. Sorry, we're on slide number 4 for the presentation. Just a few of the housekeeping matters. All right. We did align our budget, our APP, all our planning documents in a way that it would be conducive to the rollout of national and provincial priorities. As I've mentioned earlier, we've aligned it to the spirit of the MTDP and the government of national and provincial unities. Okay? The strategic plan, annual performance plan, and budget estimates are aligned in a manner that will make all of these documents talk to each other and support the mandate of Amafa Institute. We don't receive any major funding donors or agency receipts, but there is in place a 3-year funding agreement which Dr. Dlamuka alluded to earlier with the Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs for KZN. This is to the tune of almost 11 million rand, and this will be paid to us over the next 3 years for interventions that will help, that will allow heritage to drive the tourism industry or to build up the tourism industry in KZN. At present, we don't have any agreements with for the Arts Centers program. This was an agreement that we had with National Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, right? And the agreement came to an end at the end of the 2024-25 year. But we are hopeful that this program will continue because it is impacting artists around the province and empowering them economically. And we'll just wait for those agreements. And this normally starts getting phased in around September, October of each year. Right? Provincial Treasury has allowed Amafa to retain our surpluses or historically accumulated surpluses over the years, and this will be utilized to address the budget deficit that we are experiencing due to budget reductions and other cost factors that grow over the financial years going through the strategic cycle. There is a service level agreement in place with KZN Amafa and Research Institute and the KZN Department of Sport, Arts and Culture for the provincial grant allocation that we received from them. As with all transfers, these are governed in terms of the service level agreements, and there are conditions that have to be met by Amafa in order to meet with the conditions of which this grant is transferred to us. But this provincial grant allocation is not ring-fenced, and it will be used in terms of the rest of the budget as I presented in this presentation. Right, and finally, our budget is compiled in a manner that aligns to the austerity measures implemented by both KZN and National Treasury and the other instruction notes and practice notes that they may have instructed us. Okay. An overview of the revenue estimates. The next slide, please. Right. Our provincial grant allocation decreased by 2.25 million. Right, from 45 million, it's gone down to 42.75 million, which is a 5% reduction. Right, but the budding partnership between Amafa Institute and KZN EdTIA is yielding benefits for the province and for Amafa in that, like I've mentioned earlier, we'll be receiving 11 million rand that has been committed to us over the next 3 years. Right. Again, I've spoken about the arts program, which we're waiting to see what National Department of Sport, Arts and Culture come up with and how we will be utilizing those funds. Those funds are governed by SLAs and are ring-fenced exclusively to the Art Centers program. Right. Then the sale of goods and services, which comprises primarily the permit application fees and fines issued, is budgeted at 5.186 million for the financial year, and this is a significant increase from the 2024-25 year. It increases by 57.85%. Right. Interest and rental income is expected to increase by 1.07 million, or 29.84%, to an overall estimated total of 4.65 billion for the 2025-26 year. And as you go through the strategic cycle, because we are using our reserve funding, this amount will decrease over the remaining 4 years of the strategic cycle. Right. The increases in self-generated funding has allowed us to stagger the rate at which we use our historical reserves, and we've implemented at Amafa a revenue generation plan, which was first implemented in the 2023-24 financial year, and the implementation of this is shown by the success and the marked increases in our year-on-year percentages of revenue generated. Right. To balance the budget for the 2025-26 year, we'll be using 8.6 million of our historically generated reserves. Then on the next slide, we look at the allocations per category. The provincial grant allocation, I'll just focus on the 2025-26 year. The allocation for the provincial grant allocation is 42.75 million. Then 4 million will be coming in from EdTIA as their grant allocation. Right, there's nothing from the National Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. That program is still pending. But again, whatever money is received there will be used in its entirety for the Art Centers program. So that doesn't affect our bottom line in any way. The sale of goods and services is 5.187 million. Interest and rental income will be 4.656 million, and the utilization of reserves is just over 8.6 million, giving us a total of 65,237,000 as revenue for the year. Then the next slide just gives you a breakdown of how our self-generated revenue is made up, and you can see the majority of it, almost half of it, is from our overall self-generated revenue is 18.48 million. And 8.6 million of that is from the historical reserves, and 4.4 million is from the permit application fee process. These fees are the fees that we charge to assess the impact of any development on any property that is over 60 years old, or that may be a heritage site or a heritage landmark in the province. Then with the revenue generation plan, I'll just go broadly on the categories that we've addressed. We've addressed our entrance fees, and these were increased in October 2023. Permit application fees were also increased in October 2023. Fines have been instituted for non-compliance with the KZN Amafa and Research Institute Act. Then our venue and facility hires, we've upgraded a few of our centers, the J.K. Nguban Research Facility, the Umuzi Bush Camp. Right, those have been upgraded, and we are getting good revenue coming in from those. Then we've also instituted a filming fee for the use of Amafa Institute sites, and then we hire out certain venues for functions and meetings, provided these the use of these facilities and the management around that use is within the laws that Amafa prescribes to. Then we are also on an aggressive marketing program and promotion program so that we can increase attendance to our sites. We are in partnership with various tourist industries to increase their involvement in bringing people to our sites. Right. Then we are also looking at using influencers and creating increased social media platform awareness. Right. Outreach program and community radios are being used to create awareness around our sites. And then wherever we get a chance, we try to get onto investment and tourism indabas and agendas, so that way people are aware of what KZN has to offer from a heritage standpoint. Then with the expenditure estimates, as I've mentioned earlier, we've balanced our budget at 65.237 million. Right. The compensation of employees is 38.615 million, which accounts for almost 60% of the overall budget. But we must bear in mind there are two factors going into this percentage. Firstly, Amafa is a labor-intensive service-based organization. The majority of the work that we do is undertaken internally. And as a result, we don't rely too heavily on using consultants or outsourcing any work. Right? We'll only do that if it's absolutely necessary. And in doing this in having this sort of approach, we retain the skills within Amafa and we retain the knowledge, and it gives us a perpetuity to what we are doing at Amafa. Right, and then secondly, we've got the impact of the cost of living increases that are annually implemented. So I think the most recent one was about 5.5%. And if you look at it historically, these cost of living adjustments add up and go into your compensation of employees. Right? And given that this increases are not funded by any of the national or provincial treasury, nor by the department, we're often told that the baseline has to be, or the increase has to be absorbed within our existing baseline. And for Amafa, this has to come off our goods and services cost. So that's why you'll get the slightly skewed percentage of compensation of employees to the goods and services ratio. Then going into the goods and services expenditure estimate for the upcoming financial year, we're looking at about 26.3 million being spent on the goods and services that will go into the entire organization. But contained in this 26 million is just over 2 million, right, which is used for short-term job creation and contract labor that will be used at sites. What Amafa does on this program is that we create jobs for communities or community members to work on our sites in different capacities, whether it's labor, whether it's temporary positions at our museums or admin work that needs to be filled in for a short period of time. And in this way, we are giving back to the communities where our sites are. Right? And this also aligns itself to the MTDP Priority 1, which is inclusive growth and job creation. Right? Then due to our tight budget, only 300,000 has been allocated towards the upgrade of machinery and equipment. And this is more just for any damaged infrastructure that we may have, and replacement of computers or upgrading of computers and things that we might need. Right? And because of the budget as well, no major infrastructural development expenditure has been planned for the financial year. Right? Then this is just on the table format in the numbers that I've just given you. As you can see, the compensation of employees is 38.615 million, and the goods and services is 26.322 million, giving us current payments of just under 65 million. And then 300,000 is allocated to the goods and to fixed capital assets, and giving you an overall budget of 65.237 million. Transfers and subsidies from the arts and art centers programs is not budgeted for, but if that does come in, we will adjust this in the estimates budget. But like I said earlier, this money is ring-fenced, and whatever we receive will be used in its entirety for the art centers program. So in other words, all monies received will be paid over to the artists. Then on the next slide, right, this is just a graphic representation of how the funding is allocated per program. We've got 4 programs. Program 1 is administration. Program 2 is heritage identification, management and protection. Program 3 is the heritage promotion, site management and programs. And program 4 is the research and innovation program. The heritage promotion, site management and programs, which is program 3, by far takes the bulk of the share of our budget at almost at almost 50% going there. And this is because this is where our mandate is primarily managed from, and this is where we host all our events and outreach programs. Program 1, administration, deals with all our fixed overhead costs and the day-to-day running of the business or the day-to-day running of Amafa. And I just need to let you all know that our salaries is allocated per program and then the cost centers in which they occur. Research and innovation and the heritage identification and management and protection programs have a smaller budget because that's where a lot of the staff are involved in doing the actual research work, doing the actual seminars that are being hosted. They will do the grading of sites and the compilation of management plans that administrate sites. And a new development that we are trying to go into over the next few years is to address World Heritage Sites. As you know that in, I think, July or August of 2024, we've had 2 new sites inscribed in KZN, and that's the Oshlanga Institute and Sibudu Caves just outside Kwadukuza. And we are hoping that over the next few years, these sites will basically blow up and bring a lot of tourism into the province. There are other sites that we are looking at, including the Mokosini, which is the birthplace of the Zulu Nation. And the Zulu Nation, as we know, is has quite a formidable and strong history, not just in KZN, but it has a history that impacts at a global level. And that's why we were looking at nominating this as a World Heritage Site as well. Okay, then expenditure trends over the MTEF, right? And this is something that a lot of departments, municipalities, and basic organs of state are going to be experiencing over the next few years. I just wanted to touch that there is going to come a time, if you look at the shaded area, on my side it's cream, the shaded area represents our compensation of employees, and the black line represents the provincial grant allocation. There is going to come a time, given the current rate at which the cost of living allowances are increasing compared to the rate at which the grant is increasing, that there will come a time where even the grant itself will not be able to sustain the wage bill. Right? But given that possibility of happening, that's why Amafa has implemented the revenue generation plan. That's why we are aggressively marketing Amafa. That's why we are trying to form partnerships with all other organs of state and with people who have invested in World Heritage, so that this impact doesn't become a situation where provincial money is just used only for paying salaries. We're trying to avoid that. But this is at just a hypothetical worst case scenario that we will be seeing over the next year and monitoring it and being very careful about how we manage the grant. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. Not sure if HOD is anything else. No. Yes. Okay. No, thank you so much. While also welcoming other honorable members who are serving in the portfolio committee. Here is the presentation, honorable members. The 2 presentation, Honorable Seme, Honorable Nai. Let's start with Honorable Seme. Check.
Honorable Chair, greetings to the department. Thank you so much for the presentation. I have quite a few questions based on the presentation made by the Department of Arts and Culture. With the department prioritizing the funds towards the district, how will the department ensure that the decentralization of funding is accompanied by the adequate oversight and accountability to prevent mismanagement of funds? Question number 2, can you provide more details on the zero-based budget exercise and explain how the department determined which programs to fund and which to cut back on, especially concerning the insufficient allocation for various cultural major events? The third one being the documents mentioned in the refurbishment of department-owned sites to reduce cost. Can you provide a cost-benefit analysis on this decision? including the projected savings from the reduced private accommodation usage and the expected returns on the investment from monetizing these sites. What measures are in place to ensure that conditional grants such as the mass participation and sport development grants and the community library service grants are used effectively and they achieve their intended outcomes? Last one being, given the department's financial pressures, what strategies are in place to maximize revenue generation from sources like parking fees and rentals? And what are the specific targets for these revenue streams? Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Na.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Greetings to colleagues and the department officials. My question is also related to the mass participation and sport development grant and the community library services grant. Now, we've noticed that there have been delays in project implementation in prior years. So how will you ensure effective and timely expenditure of these grants going forward? My other question, with regards to transfers to municipalities for library services, what monitoring and accountability mechanisms have you put in place in order to ensure the proper use of these funds? And thirdly, we notice you've got a very limited maintenance budget, 5 million rand annually. How are you going to ensure the long-term sustainability and maintenance of the aging facilities like your libraries, your art centers, and so on? How will you handle this? How will you plan for it? Thanks, Chair.
Okay, any other questions? Let's check it up. Okay. All right. Very good questions. HOD, you will decide how you want to handle them.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Very good questions, very welcome from all the members, Honorable Chairperson. We will request both Mr. Msane and the CFO to handle some, and then I will handle the rest. Or Mr. Msane, you'll start, and then the CFO.
Okay. Thank you, HOD. Greetings to the Honorable Chair, honorable members. I will tackle on the one that relates to maintenance of facilities, in relation to the allocation. Indeed, Chair, it has been a challenge, in the department in terms of the issue of maintenance allocation. This is now the first year where we've allocated a startup capital of 5 million for us now to focus on projects that we need to upgrade or maintain. Those are direct and indirect facilities that we own in terms of maintenance. We are indeed in a plan of trying to increase the amount when coming out hires in as far as the issue of maintenance, so that we can able to finalize what we have started, which is the assessment of all our infrastructure that we have within the department. That will give us a clear determination in terms of how much we'll then need, for the out hires for us to be able to allocate what we can afford as a department. I think that will be that. I think the other ones will attach base to the library services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Through you, Chair. In terms of both the grants, mass participation and sport development grant, as well as the library service grant, historically we have been spending these grants at 100% in the prior year. Also based on the analysis and the report by our national KZN, is in the top 3 in the country in terms of the financial performance of these grants as well as the non-financial performance. There is an MOA between the department as well as the National Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. There is also a business plan that is signed by the accounting officer detailing the projects and the programs that will be implemented utilizing these funds. Also, there are quarterly meetings where the province presents its report in terms of progress as well as expenditure made in respect of these grants. I must say, Chair, as much as it is still premature, but the report and the annual financial statements are still to be compiled and submitted. Both these grants have achieved 100% spending in 2024-2025. I think it also touches on what Mr. Msane was saying, Guti. Yes, there were delays previously, but in 2024-25, those projects have taken place and some are planned for construction in this budget, which is 2025-2026. On zero-based budgeting, it is to say, because this is a new department, we looked at reconfiguring and strategizing as a new department. So instead of saying I had 10 Rand last year, then let me increase by 5%. There was a thorough and in-depth exercise of developing a new strategy for the new department. And that had to be costed and funding. I must say, Chair, that the financial or the financial resources did not allow for all the desired plans and programs to be provided for in the budget. So that is where zero-based budgeting is coming from. For example, there was also a decision that was taken by the department to say, let us have a pyramid approach in terms of our programs. Instead of implementing most programs at a head office level, let us implement them and have a larger chunk on the districts where these programs are implemented than at a head office level. So that function, budget follows the function. I must say, in terms of monitoring and ensuring that districts do deliver, the district offices on a monthly and on a quarterly basis do present their reports on the programs that are being implemented as well as the spending of the budget. On the cost benefit for the refurbished sites, is the Skinner Camp, is the Heather Hall, and the Cathedral Peak. The condition they are in now is not good, and that is why there was a decision to say, let us refurbish them so that they can be in a position and attract whoever wants to make use of them. Also, right now we are hiring out marquees and other facilities for our programs. So we will be in a position to make some saving in terms of hiring other facilities and make use of our own in implementing some of our programs, and also hire these out at a fee, for example, the whole hire fee in respect of the Heather Hall, even the Skinner Camp and the Cathedral Peak Arts Center, whoever is external wants to make use of it, they will have to pay for that. But a detailed report to say how much are we going to charge will still be determined. Yeah, I think I've covered those that relate to the budget.
Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, once again, thank you for the questions. I think I'm going to just handle two that the two colleagues have not exhausted or handled at all. The first one is the prioritization to districts, the decentralization of the budget. Our strategy, honorable members, honorable Chairperson, is clearly going down to the in an integrated fashion, but we do take full accountability in an integrated fashion, but we do take full accountability for the budget that we allocate to the districts. So there is a structure that is managed by a chief director who's responsible for all the districts, who is basically using that as a monitoring and evaluation structure together with the M&E chief director at the provincial level. So there is close monitoring. They have submitted their plans. Their plans have been approved. And of course, on a monthly basis, we will be tracking and ensuring that those targets that are set match the budget that has been allocated. So there is definitely close monitoring, including the federations that will be delivering together with us. And then on the resource mobilization, honorable member, I think that is also a very good question in view of the fact that we don't have enough of a budget to cover all the needs that we have in the province. So we have a strategy, a resource mobilization strategy that includes working collaboratively with other government departments. For example, the fight against crime we are doing with community safety and liaison, because that's part of the social cohesion and nation building agenda. So that budget for that program does not necessarily come from our department only. It comes from all of our government departments to drive a social cohesion and nation building. Education, ensuring UTI curriculum talks to who we are, the identity, productive curriculum, and so on. So they budget for some aspects of that program. But we also mobilize resources through corporate. We've approached a number of our business entities, and we keep pitching to them. And wherever there's alignment, for example, business sector is really keen to come on board and assist. All Mutual, as an example, is funding our choral music as a way of getting young people, involved in our programs and ensuring that they are not embarking in negative behavior. So those are the strategies, Honorable Chairperson. Not easy, but we are leveraging whoever we have in the system of government as well as in the private sector to really get ourselves financial resources in particular. The rest, I think, has been covered. The refurbishment is a long-termish kind of goal. It's not like we're going to have, the cost benefit with immediate effect. We need to invest first, which is why we have to refurbish, and then we will be saving quite a lot. And I think that is the calculation available to members to indicate how much of a saving we are going to get as we, steer away from AMA hotels and use our own facilities, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you.
Honorable Sam and Honorable Nai covered. Thank you so much. Any other members? No. Excuse me, none. Okay. No, thank you so much, HOD, CEO, with your teams. Really appreciate, and we appreciate that when we called and requested that you come earlier than we had planned, you were able to come through. We appreciate that. Honorable members, as well as members from the Portfolio Committee, we appreciate your presence. We are then holding it at this level. We'll adjourn and allow ourselves to go for lunch. We are all invited. Thank you, honorable members. Meeting is adjourned.
you